Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Rafi's Adventures in Deliciousness. And today we will be making stir fry. As always, apologies for the noise in the background. I'm a dorm. And apologies for the messiness of the kitchen, because again, this is a dorm. Now, in my previous episodes, I've said that some of the meals I made were cheap, and it has come to my attention that for some people, that the price range of that might not be so cheap. So allow me to explain. I'm using kosher ingredients since I'm kosher observant, and for kosher observant people, our baseline cheapest stuff can be a little more expensive than the non-kosher stuff. So, if you don't keep kosher or whatever, feel free to substitute whatever cheaper alternatives you have. And as always, to anyone watching, thanks for tuning in. So the reason I say stir fry and don't specify what kind of stir fry I'm making is because a dish like this is so customizable. You can literally use anything. So I'm using cut up hot dogs as a protein with a medley of peas and carrots as a vegetable, and some fresh ramen noodles, which I found on sale, as a starch. And the sauce is a mixture of soy sauce, teriyaki sauce, ground dried ginger, and a little bit of sriracha. And I really like that combination, and you can always throw in a bit of duck sauce. I also like to do that. So now, I'm fairly sure, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but the reason dishes like these are called stir fries is because a comparatively smaller amount of oil is used, and instead of kind of sitting there in the oil, as in normal frying, the ingredients are moved in and out of the oil in the pan. So hence stir frying. Okay, so I'm going to start by adding the oil to the pan. And then I'm going to toss in my hot dogs, because I think those are going to take the longest to cook. Yeah, so in a recipe like this, you're going to throw in what takes the longest to cook first, because that way everything cooks evenly. And then as the ingredients that take progressively less and less time to cook, throw them in, after, hard to explain, but yeah. So the hot dog's going in first. So properly, I would be tilting the pan as I stirred to kind of get all the oil to pool in the bottom, but I can't do that. And hold the camera. So here I have the hot dogs in the pan, and now I'm going to pause the video so I can properly stir fry the hot dogs. And again, you're going to want to tilt the pan so you have a little bit of oil pooling in one end, and be constantly moving whatever the ingredients are in and out of your oil. And also, I'm going to put in some of the sauce. So what you're going to have is a combination of oil and sauce that the ingredients are being constantly moved in around, and you want the sauce to coat the ingredients nice and good. So now I'm going to pause the video to stir fry them properly and add the sauce in. So a side note, and you may note that some of the sauce has been added, you don't want to use all of your sauce in this one time, because you want to save little bits. So each time you add in another ingredient, you add a little more of the sauce. Another side note, this dish should be properly made on something called a wok, but I do not have a wok, so this is what you're going to get. The hot dogs are cooked how I like them, which is with some char and puffed up a bit. But really, if you're using hot dogs which are pre-cooked, you can cook them to as long or as short as you want. If you're using something raw, you're going to want to, like beef. For chicken, I don't like to touch raw chicken for stuff like this. I like to use pre-cooked because it's just safer, since it's really dangerous to consume raw chicken, salmonella and stuff. It's a little bit safer to eat raw beef, so that's why I feel more comfortable. So for beef, I like to sear it, which I take a piece of steak, whatever quality you want, set an oven to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 minutes on each side, with or without marinade. It's your choice. I like to use a marinade. So now you have 5 minutes on each side. Cut the steak up into nice little bite-sized chunks. And for a steak, especially if you're using fresh ingredients like fresh broccoli or something, you want to put the steak in after you've done cooking the broccoli, or at least after the broccoli is slightly softer to the touch, because then it cooks to the right amount and you don't get burnt chunks or raw chunks, and really you don't want anything burnt or raw. I say that with the hot dogs getting their char, but I like that, and that's my personal preference. Whatever you want to do is fine by you, because this dish is very customizable. So now what I'm going to do is add in the vegetables with, again, some more of the sauce. So I've added in the vegetables along with a little more of the sauce, and now what you're going to want to do is mix the vegetables and the protein so they're like nice and evenly mixed together as much as possible, and then continue to tilt the pan and stir them through the oil and sauce. Side note, I hope it's not too late right now during the video, but of course you're going to want to pre-cook whatever noodles you have, whether it be ramen or normal pasta, according to whatever process it recommends on the box or container. So if you're using something like I am, which is canned vegetables, which are already well cooked, you can cook them for as little or as long as you want, all to your taste. Basically, just kind of taste one or two as you keep cooking to see if you like it or not. And if you like it, well, then it's time for the next step. If you're using something like fresh carrots or broccoli, whatever, so then that's a different story. If you're using fresh carrots, what I like to do is put the carrots in first and fry them at the bottom of the pan with a little bit of the sauce and maybe some chili pepper flakes until they're just soft enough that they part when you cut them with your spatula. And me using a rounded wooden spatula. With broccoli, what I like to do with frozen broccoli is put it in the microwave beforehand for 5 minutes, submerged in a bowl of water. And that usually leaves it nice and soft. And I'm going to put those in after the carrots. If you're using fresh broccoli, you're going to want to also put that in after the carrots, but put that in with a nice good amount of the sauce, and then if you want to soften it up, put a lid over the pan so it steams. And now keep checking on it to make sure it's as soft or as hard as you want it to be. But for so far, we're continuing to stir fry our vegetable step. Okay, so I have tasted the vegetables and found them to be good. So now on to the final step, the starch, which in this case is our fresh ramen. So we're going to put that in, and in this case it's kind of a block, so I'm going to break it up as I put it in. Or at least attempt to. So, as you can probably see, I've misjudged the amount of ramen I had. But whatever, that just means that I'll be sticking some in the fridge later for leftovers. So now after you put the ramen in, and I did a fairly good job of breaking it up, you're going to put in more, the rest of the sauce, and then mix it in so everything's nice and homogenized. Okay, so at this point, it's really up to you when you want to take it off. If you're using something like beef, I like to remove it when the beef isn't raw anymore and it's like a pinkish brown sort of color. When it's like this, you can taste and see when things are ready and to the right texture for your taste. Okay, so now I've tried to stir fry and it's good for my taste, so I'm going to stop cooking it now. I'm going to turn off my burner. It's going to take a little bit. Take this off the heat. Now, if you like this video or not, it'd be nice if you could leave us a like and a subscribe. And leave a comment for a recommendation that you'd like me to cook in the future. I'm always open to them. And I get notifications, so leave a comment on any of my videos and I'll probably see it and get back to you. Thank you very much, and have a good night.